Yo, what's good, Hot Peppers? Today, we're going to go over the best sniping settings that you can find in Modern Warfare 3. And I'm guessing you guys want to be able to snipe like this. With the clip that I'm showing in the background, it's very aggressive for sniping. And I've noticed a lot of people that are sniping on this game are trying to find what settings work best for them. So I'm going to break down every little thing possible, including me using a keyboard and mouse or a controller, because I'm a hybrid player. And also going very in depth on finding ways to have a very good response time. So before I begin, I do use a SoaR Scuff impact controller here with 3 paddles on the back, not 4, because my right hand usually presses the 4th paddle on accident a lot. I grip my controller in a very non-sus way. So let's begin with the controller, and then we'll move on to keyboard and mouse, and then graphics. For my controller settings, going into my edit button layout here, my controller preset button layout is set to tactical flipped. I prefer to drop shot with a right stick instead of using a paddle. It's just been what I've been using for years, and I feel like, to me, that's the best way to slide cancel and also drop shot. Not everyone is going to be using tactical, but this really comes down to what you've been using for years now. And then I have it on flip because even if I don't have my Scuff controller, if I'm playing on someone else's setup, I can use my bumpers, which is way more responsive than what it is on the triggers here. Even though, however, I do have digital tap bumpers and digital tap triggers. So let me plug this controller back in here. My bumper ping is off, and to flip your bumpers and your triggers, you can just enable this setting right here. Flip your L1, L2, R1, R2 to on. Stick layout preset, have this on default. Controller vibration, make sure to have this off. Personally, for me, I feel like this is very distracting, and it also messes with my aim. Now, this is one of the most important settings, Deadzone input. Now, just as of recently, I found something that works very well for me. For someone who has stick drift on the left stick 99% of the time, or pretty much 100% of the time when I play, left stick minimum, I have this on an 8. So instead of me sprinting or walking immediately, which I still can do, but I notice as soon as I flick my left stick up, immediately it responds very quickly because of the left stick max. So my area is always very small when it comes to using my left stick. You can have this at 0 to make it very, very responsive, but since I have stick drift, I have the left stick minimum on 8. So that way I don't accidentally just constantly move on accident. And then of course the left stick max, leaving it very responsive still. And then now for the right stick, I have this on 6 and 99. Now, personally, I feel like you should keep your max at 99 and your right stick minimum between 0 to 7. I feel like when you push past 7, you have this delay on your right stick and you're not able to control your sensitivity that well. And then left trigger, right trigger, I have those on 0. And moving on to my sensitivity, if you guys remember from my previous settings video in the past, I've used to use a max sensitivity. I used to go on like 20/20. Now I brought it down to 70/17. I want to focus more on my accuracy. My game sense is there, it's top tier, but when it comes to my accuracy, I feel like sometimes I slack on it a little bit. And if I just hit my shot, I can be the scariest person on the game. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's the same thing that applies for every other person, right? If you hit all of your shots, you will become the most deadliest player ever. So as far as sensitivity multiplier, vertical aim axis, I did not mess with those. I did change my aim response curve type from linear to dynamic. And what I noticed about this time around is when I use linear and precision, I can snipe really well on it. However, it's not the same thing as it is on Black Ops games, the arcade games. Again, I can use it, but I've noticed dynamic and using default for my target aim assist is best when I want to do sniping and red gunning, because if I want to pick up a gun and red gun, or when I play Warzone, or even when I play just ranked in general, I want to keep the same momentum that I am on sniping and red gunning. So I gotta find the middle ground, and dynamic and default for me is what I found best. ADS sense at 1. ADS sensitivity transition timing, I feel that instant or after zoom is the best. After zoom for me is only applied when I'm actually fully zoomed in. So between instant and after zoom, test it out, see what you like personally. And then going down to custom sensitivity per zoom, I was messing with a 2 to 3x zoom, but low zoom, I use this when I red gun. For regular sniping scope, for like high zoom, I keep that at a 1. I know some snipers like to keep it at a 2 or even maxed out because they like to have their sensitivity the same thing as when they zoom in. Me personally, I'm not a fan of that. Motion sensor behavior off. Advanced settings have this off as well. Moving on to the gameplay. Automatic tactical sprint on. Slide maintain sprint. You could have this on. When I had it on, I felt like there was a delay. I'm not too sure with it. On move forward off. Single tap run. So that way you can, when you flick your left stick up, you immediately just full sprint, you full tactical sprint. You don't have to click the tactical sprint for you to be able to full sprint. You know, you can at least run, play very aggressive when you need to. Now, mantling on this game is very trash. Have this on off, 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 slide only for your slide behavior. When I tried to do tap to slide, I noticed that there was a very subtle delay. So having a slide only feels so instant. It's really nice. I personally feel like dive is kind of useless depending on the situation, because you want to be slide canceling this game as much as possible. Plunging underwater, I have this on free. There's a way to plunge out of the water and be able to whip out a gun pretty quickly. There's a method on how to do that. I will go over a movement video tutorial sometime in the future. Parachute auto deploy off. I have that for Warzone, so I can like land on the ground a lot quicker. Spring door batch on. Ledge climb behavior, mantle only, because if you have it on movement base, you'll just be holding onto the ledge and you don't want to be doing that. So as soon as you mantle, just mantle right away. Now going down, have hold, sprint, hold, ADS melee, weapon mount exit delay. If you're trying to go for challenges, in my opinion, I think instant is just the best one to go for. And then for Warzone interact reload behavior, prioritize interact. I feel like this is best for both multiplayer and Warzone, because you want to be running around picking up weapons, and when there's no loot on the ground, you can simply just press reload. Personally, I feel like this one is the most easiest one to use for me, but if you're playing Warzone and you don't mind going back and forth, tap to interact and then tap to reload when you're playing multiplayer. So tap to interact for Warzone, tap to reload for multiplayer. Armor plate behavior apply all makes it easier for Warzone. Now scrolling down, you can have this off. Depleted ammo weapon switch. Sometimes I'm just not paying attention to how much ammo I have, which is pretty bad as a player. And then going down here, off, free look, toggle off, moderate, hold. I do be using the ping sometimes, but I don't want to have any delay on this. And then now moving to keyboard and mouse. So my DPI is at 800. My in-game sense is at 8. I do not change much, really. 1 relative is the best. Pretty much you don't want to be changing any of this. Maybe your custom sensitivity per zoom. I know some players like to have their sense the same thing as they have it for their zoom in sense, if that makes sense. Totally up to you and whatever you feel comfortable with. Now for your keybinds, this is what I'm using. I use C to crouch or slide, and then my prone dive is control. Obviously, when it comes to diving and sliding, it's like two different mechanics that you want to be using here. This is pretty much the rest of it. I did not change much. Pretty much a lot of it is the same as I had on Modern Warfare 2 or Modern Warfare 2019, or even Cold War, I guess. Probably want to mess with this by yourself for the best settings. On the other hand, for gameplay, crouch behavior toggle, prone behavior go to, so that way you prone immediately. Automatic attack sprint on, so that way you don't have to use your shift button or whatever you use to sprint, or unless you like that, you can have it on automatic sprint instead of automatic tactical sprint. And then of course your airborne mantle off, ground mantle hang off, ground mantle off, independent, so that way you can also choose to slide or dive on 2 different keys. And pretty much everything else is the same thing as what I had on controller here. I definitely play more on controller than I do on keyboard and mouse. I would say personally I'm better on controller just because I have like 14 years of experience on controller, whereas keyboard and mouse, I know I have a lot of potential, but just gathering content is just so much easier on controller, so I'm sure you guys understand. Now moving on to graphics, this is very, very important. Obviously this is going to be on PC, so if you're on PS5, Xbox or PS4, whatever, try to use whatever settings that is available to you that I can share today. Full screen exclusive, so that way you can have very instant response time with your monitor. If you're on a dual PC setup, if you're on borderless, you probably have less screen tear, but even then I think full screen exclusive is just the best way to go. I just recently got a BenQ 240Hz monitor, 1440p. If you guys want to go check it out, a link will be down below in the description. And here's a clip of me unboxing the monitor. Listen up, ladies and gentlemen, this is the SoaR Zephy pepper stream here, and we're going to be I'm old. Okay, so I'm gonna put this on my shirt real quick. That was kind of satisfying. All right, here's the reveal. Secured for sure. The monitor itself, bam. Got the little monitor stand as well. Looking like some crab legs. The pole of the monitor stand, looking like a trophy. Good plug. Cover for the back stuff for the monitor, for all the cables. These are the cables. Dude, they have a remote. Can y'all see that? BenQ turn on. Good old brick. I don't think I will need this, but not the cable. This is indeed an HDMI cable. It looks like a 2.1. Big ring line in the reflection, but this bottom part right here, you see where my thumb is at? This whole thing across, I believe that's for the audio stuff. So that's cool. Gray, silver, that's clean, beautiful. And then the inputs are on the bottom here.
So we have 2 HDMI ports, 1 display, 2 3.0 USB, and I don't know what the other one is called, so I apologize for my lack of knowledge on that one.
Now this monitor is really nice. Been using it quite a bit recently, and there is a remote that you can have on a monitor. It's almost like a TV, but it's not a TV, it's a monitor, right? It's crazy. But anyways, moving on here. Aspect ratio on wide 16:9. For NVIDIA Reflex low latency, have this on or on plus boost. What I would do is hop in a game in firing range and test out to see which one is going to give you more frames. It'll probably give you like a 5 to 10 frame increase. You will be able to tell if you have, you know, the FPS on the top left there. Eco mode preset on custom, efficiency just on custom, so that way you can have manual control of the sustainability of settings. VSync both off here. Custom frame limit on custom. You don't really need to have 100 plus in the menus. It's pretty pointless. Focus mode on 90, and then HDR, you do not need that. And then for graphic settings, for quality, graphic preset, custom, render resolution on 100, dynamic resolution off. Now upscaling, sharpening, I know some people use NVIDIA DLSS and NVIDIA image scaling and fidelity cast. Me personally, I find that fidelity cast gives you the best response time when it comes to you using the controller. I know that's going to sound crazy, but I notice my delays when I feel them. Like, I'm 24 and I can still feel my reflexes still being up to date. You know what I'm saying? And fidelity cast, it also makes your game look better as well. So if you have this fidelity cast strength between 80 to 90, you don't need to add 100. The more higher you go, the more frames you will lose. So 80 is like a sweet spot for me. VRAM scale target, you can have it at 90. I find that 80 gives me a little bit higher frames, by like 5-10 frames. So adjust that to whatever works best for you. Texture resolution, you can't keep it between low to normal. You do want the game to be looking at least fairly decent, so for you to be able to have good visibility and of course the best amount of frames you can get out of your graphics card. So you scroll down here, particle resolution 100%, you want that at very low. You don't need to see how descriptive the particles are. Bullet impacts, you definitely want to see that when you have a new gun and you want to understand the recoil pattern. So definitely have that one on. That one's literally like a 1 to 2 frame difference on your game. On-demand texture streaming, you have that off here. Shadow quality, you can put this to low if you would like. Me personally, I just want the best amount of frames I can, even if it's just the 1% pinch, you know. And then these are the rest of the quality settings here. This is what I'm rocking. Now moving on to view. Field of view, this is all personal preference. I think between 100 to 120 is the sweet spot for most people on PC. I've been rocking 120 forever, and I think 100 to 107 is the best for controller for like aim assist and even on Warzone as well. But 120, just, I love the fast-paced action. It keeps my attention. It's just like a personal thing, you know. ADS field of view. Now I know some people like to have it on affected, but since I've been using iron sight on the sniper, independent is very nice, you know, to be able to zoom in a little bit further for the long shots, for the longbow, if you guys remember that video. But I know most pro players use affected, so that way you're not super zoomed in. So I changed this depending on what I'm doing, really. So we could just keep it out of effective, anything. Weapon field of view, want to have it on wide, so that way your weapon looks smaller. Same thing for your vehicle field of view. Same thing applies. World motion blur and weapon motion blur both off. Film grain 0, so that way you don't have those little pixels, or it doesn't look so ugly, I guess you could say. And then your camera movement at 50% on both of them right here. And then spectator camera on game perspective, because helmet camera is literally so pointless. I don't understand why they added it in the game. Hate to be a hater, but I find it very, very useless. So inverted flashbang, I like the original flashbang. You can keep it on if it's, you know, for inverted, but I feel like when it just black screens, I feel like my game crashed. So I'm just not a fan of that. And for the camera movement, by the way, you want to make sure that your game is still as possible, so you are able to focus on the center of your screen without it being so shaky. Now moving on to audio, I heard that the PC speaker for audio mix is the best, or you could do headphone bass boost. Those two are very good, so adjust to whatever you like. I'm not much of an audio engineer here, but that's what I find best for me. And then for your master volume, this is all personal preference. Last words, voice chat, make sure you have that on so you can get some reactions, you know, for content. And the proximity chat, I would have this off just because it can get pretty distracting when you're in game in Warzone and you just hear people just being so loud and they have their speakers on, like they have a Connect mic, and you're just trying to hear footsteps, man. It can be pretty frustrating at times, even though it's fun, you know, it's funny. But I have push to talk. I use the foot pedal to talk. My microphone level probably should be higher, but I'm definitely gonna adjust that a little bit later here. And then going down, reduce tinnitus. I don't even know how to say this word, but the sounds from concussion and flash grenades, it's a little beep sound that you will be hearing. So I think this will be very helpful if you just don't want to hear that. And then the music stuff, completely have that off. It's So useless. Now for the last thing, the interface. Subtitles, I have it on campaign only, just so that way it feels like a movie. Subtitles default, menu text size default, color customization. Now if you scroll down here, I have everything on default for the element colors for the interface. Now color filter settings, if you put it on 2, change this to both, and then maximize your world color intensity and your interface color intensity. And if you scroll over here, take a look at the playground, right? If you have it on none, look at the playground, right? It looks slightly dull. And then number 2 is like, pop. It just makes it a little bit better. You know, you're able to see your enemies and makes the color of the map a little bit more vibrant. Of course, we don't want to be playing a dull game, right? We like some color. HUD bounds. Now, if you're going for clips, make sure you have this on the smallest HUD possible. So that way it, you know, looking good on the panic crop. Minimap shape square. So you can be able to see a lot more. Rotation is on, horizontal compass. I personally would have this off for multiplayer, and for Warzone you can have it on, but I'm gonna take it off just because I don't ever use it. I don't say north, I don't say west, south, east. You know what I'm saying? I just ping. I'm like, yo, do it on 2-story on blue building. Where's the nearest blue building? Right over there. There you go. Crosshair static. You don't want to have your crosshairs moving around so much. It's pretty distracting. So on the drop down arrow here, center dot on, center dot scale larger. You can have it on default if you like. You feel like the dot is a little too big. Hit marker visuals on player names, full name, in the game tech chat on. So telemetry, the custom here. So I have the FPS on, server latency on. You don't need packet loss, you don't need temperature, time, or your CPU time. However, if you want to go more in depth on like what is going on your PC and you want to like make sure you keep your PC in check, you can have these settings on. Personally, I just have it on right now just to see what's my response time on my specs of my computer. But the 3 most important, in my opinion, I don't feel like packet loss. I don't get packet loss. GPU temperature, I would have this on just because my temps do get pretty high, and it's nice to know if it's getting too hot in the room. And then GPU time and CPU time, you know, it's nice for the response time. So, and then for the rest of the settings here, you can just have this completely up to you. You can have it off. I like, I don't know, gameplay tips. There might be something that I just don't know about the game. It would be nice to know for them to share, I guess. Now, I would go over the NVIDIA control panel settings, but when it comes to your graphics card and your settings, everyone is different, and I don't want to go over them and give you guys some false information. But what I've noticed from the graphics settings on 1/3 and the controller settings, keyboard and mouse settings, and all that great stuff, this is what I find best, and I could dive more in depth on how to find your sensitivity better, your sniping, in a completely different video. Now, if you guys found this video helpful and if you find these settings improving your gameplay, drop a like, help support the channel. Subscribe to the channel so that way you can get notified when you guys are in need of sniping content, whether if you guys are going to be learning stuff or just looking for great stuff. And make sure you turn on the notification bells, and let me know down below in the comments if I missed anything, or if you want me to answer any of you guys' questions. Please be sure to let me know as I read all the comments, and I will do my best to get back to every single one of you. Now, keep in mind, this is season 1, so settings will be changing in the far future, and if anything changes, be sure to check in the description or the pinned comment for any updates of this video or any of these settings. All right, on that, I'll see you guys in the next video. You guys take care and have a wonderful day.